everybody and welcome to today's lecture. So today we will continue looking at some of the idea generation techniques. We had covered a few of them in the last class and today we will be covering the rest of them. So we'll look at the scenario mapping technique here. Now scenario means creating a scene or a certain situation where we have to map the user, that how the user would behave in that particular given scenario. So this is basically a sequence or actions of event which is very particular, and this is different from the journey mapping, and I will also towards the end explain the difference between the two, that how is the scenario mapping different from journey mapping. Now scenario mapping gives the context to the design team of the problem, and from there how do they go forward in order to coming up with the solutions. So scenario gives life to an abstract idea, because when we are creating a scenario around us, that how the user will be behaving there, so it will give us a lot of those insights that we may not be able to come up with without this generation of the scenario. So we'll see with an example that how will that be possible. So let's see this with the help of an example. So now we can take anybody, say Mansi is there, who needs to buy a new phone, and she needs to buy a new phone because the phone which she's using at her office, it has just suddenly just broken down. So she is in need of a phone urgently. So now what will Manasi do in order to go ahead by solving this problem of hers of getting a new phone? So now what she does is she opens her favorite e-commerce platform, and then she will put in some keywords describing her requirement, maybe the specifications and other aspects of the phone. But most importantly, because her phone broke down while she was at office and she is in urgent need of the phone, she would want the phone to be delivered as quickly as possible. So maybe she will try to look for a filter which says next day delivery, even though she may ultimately have to pay extra for that facility. And then she will look at phones, maybe she'll compare two phones together to see which one is more efficient for the kind of work she does at the office. Then she will also check for the budget, that which phone fits her budget. She will go through customer reviews of the delivery service as well, that how quickly was their phone delivered to them. So it will give her an idea whether she can expect her phone to be delivered the next day or not. And then she will complete the purchase process once she has made a satisfactory choice when it comes to selecting the phone and the service provider. So now the observer will look at the pain points that Manasi is facing while she is going through this whole process. So one pain point may be that she is finding it very difficult to identify a service provider or a delivery partner who is delivering the phone the next day as per her need. And then also maybe she finds that the reviews that the other customers have left, they are very conflicting. So they are not indicating in one direction whether this is the whole experience was positive, the phone as well as the delivery, or whether it is negative. So she may move to the next option, but here they are conflicting. That means few people are saying that they had a good experience, others are saying it was not a good experience. So now Mansi is confused because she doesn't know which of the two would she face the situation, would she encounter the next day when she's actually expecting her phone to be delivered. Now what can we learn from the pain points of Manasi here? So then how the outcome can be improved. So then we will see that these are the pain points, and now apart from the other important needs that are there of purchaser, but in this particular case where the customer has this specific need, then how the pain points can be converted into providing a successful solution for those particular pain points that the consumer may be facing. So we can see that one difference between the scenario mapping and the journey mapping is that scenario mapping focuses on one task itself. So we can see that the scenario mapping usually is centered around one task only. So as compared to the journey mapping, which maps the entire journey of the consumer, we'll see that also with an example. But in the scenario mapping, we saw that how there was one specific situation of purchasing for Manasi's for her requirement, and this whole process includes 5 essential elements, which are user persona, motivation, intention or intent, action, and resolution. So, user persona is a fictitious character which is a generalized representation of a key segment of the population. So, here we will be covering the essential information about the users, such as their goals, behaviors, demographics, their pain points, their motivations, and other aspects which are important, which really are key to this particular group of people. So, this we come up after doing research on people, and then these characteristics are mapped onto this fictitious character, and this is involved in this process, that what would Manasi do in this situation. So, knowing her motivations, requirements, demographic and other things, we have created this persona, and now we would play this scenario out by thinking that what would this character of ours will do in this particular given situation, how would they tackle this situation and come up with a viable solution for their problem. So, next we have the journey mapping, and journey mapping, although is quite similar in the approach that we saw in the scenario mapping, but still it has some key differences as compared to scenario mapping. So, journey mapping also maps out the user experience of the product or service, but it maps out the entire user experience of the product. So, it is used to identify the pain points of the user, and we saw similarly in the scenario mapping also we did the same thing by finding the pain points of our character there in that particular case. And the journey mapping is useful in getting the entire view of customer interaction with the end product, and to also design how the product is to be used or how it will be used. So, the entire journey of the user and the product, and here it is essential to capture the emotions and feelings of the consumer, of the user here. It is really important because we have to understand that what are their frustrations and what are their satisfaction points in this whole journey, and wherever we find these pain points and points where they are feeling frustrated, we have to find ways to reverse them and provide a better experience to the user. So, let us understand this journey mapping again with the help of an example. And now let us take, maybe we can take Manasi again in this example also, but this time Manasi has a different agenda. This is, she wants to purchase a phone, but it is not because she has, her previous phone has stopped working or she has lost it, but she wants to upgrade to a better phone that is in the market. So, now we can, let's see that how will she go through this entire journey of purchasing this phone. So, the first step here will be awareness, that Manasi is now getting aware that her current phone is outdated, or maybe the battery doesn't last much, she needs to recharge it again and again, or there may be some other problem with the button, or the screen may not be as efficient as it was when it was new. So, that is her awareness about her need to purchase a new phone. Then some touch points which she would get in touch with is, maybe she will look at some advertisements where she will see a new phone. It could be some video where some influencer is showing a new phone, or it could be digital print or in TV or any other source where she is looking at these other phones that are available. And then the feeling that will be generated in her will be of curiosity. So, the emotion will be anticipation, because she is anticipating purchasing a new phone and holding a new phone and improving her interaction with this new device, which will give her more delight because it will work more efficiently, battery will be better, camera will be better than her previous phone. So, there is that emotion of anticipation and happiness that she will feel, but at the same time in this particular stage she may have some pain points, which may be that there are too many phones from which to make a choice out of. So, that could be something that may be a bit of a frustration for her, that how do I make the right choice. So now coming to the next stage, which is the research. So now in the first stage of action, Manasi will start researching at what all different phones are available. Now, how she will start doing this is by looking at several e-commerce platforms. She will be maybe look at some blogs. She will compare some customer experiences, and she will read or listen to their positive experiences and negative experiences. And then the emotions that she may feel at this point may be of overwhelmed feeling, because there's so much of information, the reviews are conflicting, and she doesn't know who is telling right, who is telling incorrect information. So she's overwhelmed by all this information because she does not want to make the incorrect choice for herself, because it is an investment. Phones need money, they do not come very cheap. So she will be putting her saving into it. So she has to be very careful about it. So now here at this stage, Manasi is very overwhelmed by her feelings, because it's very difficult to make a choice with all the different reviews she is reading or hearing, and they are not giving her any conclusive solution. So that gives rise to her pain points, which is the information overload and difficulty in making a choice. Then in the next stage, which is the consideration stage, while she's making a consideration here, finally she will consider maybe say 2 phones that are best fitting ticking all the boxes that she had for herself, which is basically the needs that she has from these phones. So she will now look at those 2 phones in detail. She will be comparing them on the price, on some of the features, some specifications, maybe cameras, and maybe she will do a better research on the consumer responses, and maybe she will also put in some of her own questions that she wants answers for, for which she could not find any answers already. So now she wants answers for. And although at this stage we may feel that she is confident because she has narrowed down to 2 phones, but she's still cautious, because again those 2 phones could be very different from each other. And apart from some smaller choices, that the form of the phone or some easy decisions, some difficult decisions maybe are still pending on her front. Now finally the decision is being taken. So Manasi has identified which of the 2 phones she will be purchasing, and now she has to go to the e-commerce platform and make the payment. So now she has made the payment, she's satisfied, and she's waiting for the delivery and anticipating whether delivery be on time or not. And maybe she will at this point also suddenly be hit by a thought that what if the other phone was better and she should have gone for the other phone. So she may come across that kind of a conflicting feeling as well. And while she's checking the status, tracking the phone, she may find that the tracking information is not shared explicitly, so there's hardly much to follow on. And now this is increasing her anxiety, because it's not communicating with her that where has the shipment reached or what is the tentative date for the delivery. So she's very unclear on those fronts and getting very frustrated and anxious. And of course, after the post purchase stage, which is the final stage where Manasi has finally received the phone, she has unboxed the phone. So she's also gone through the experience of unboxing it and the thrill of opening a new item. And now at the same time, the pain point may be that there is no information or instruction on how she can transfer the old data from her older phone to this new phone, because all her contacts are there, and then inputting each and every contact is a very tedious job. So she may struggle with finding on how she can do that. So now these pain points that we have identified, which is that there is no clear-cut instruction or there is no manual or no video which is helping her out. So now this whole journey, so now we can see that at each and every stage of, from the awareness stage to this post-purchase stage, we can see that each and every stage has had some pain points. So now when we have created this journey of the user from A to Z, and we know all the stop areas in between. So each of those had pain points, and how can we now find solutions for those pain points so that the user has a very positive journey, and this journey is not full of confusion or frustration or any kind of a negative emotion. So the next method is the idea challenge. So this is a focused form of innovation where one may raise a problem or opportunity with hopes of coming up with creative solution. So this is taken up like a challenge, and where we are hoping to come up with solution. Now the process of participating and coming up with the ideas. So this is a process of participating and coming up with ideas for a predefined theme for a limited period of time. So just as we have these competitions, competitions are not open forever. So for example, photography competition. So the institute may invite all students to participate in the photography competition, and they may say within 15 days the entries should be submitted on this email in this particular format. So on that deadline, the photographs have to be submitted, because this is not competition which is open throughout the year, because at some point we'll have to close it and evaluate the entries. So similarly, this idea challenge is also wherein there is a deadline by which the ideas need to be come up with, and it uses the power of competition to fuel creativity and making the designer participants to think outside the box. So just as a teacher conducts a quiz, for example, in the class, so there are two teams and they ask a question from both the teams, and the team which presses the buzzer first wins that particular round. So this generates this competition, this positive competition, and this go-getter attitude to do better than the other team. So similarly, in this idea challenge also, the competition brings up the creativity and the positive side of the competition with the others who are participating here. So now this idea competition that we have, the types are based on the result of the usage. So there are of two types. So one is problem centric idea challenge and the other is solution centric idea challenge. So now the problem centric idea challenge is where we are looking at identifying the problem. So this is identifying the challenge. It is more centered towards the problem itself and how can we find the challenges in the problem. So solution centric idea challenge helps in developing a potential solution. So this on the other hand looks at finding the solutions for the problem. So they both have a different approach. So this idea challenge can bifurcate into two different directions. So one is where the problem centric challenge and the other is solution centric challenge. So this also allows the team to be more focused on the final output that is to be generated by the team effort. So the idea challenge then bifurcates into two, which is the problem centric idea challenge and the other is solution centric idea challenge, and this allows the participants to focus on either of the two and which helps in coming up with better solutions. Now how do we take this idea challenge forward? So what is to be done? So this introduces a structured competition to stimulate innovative thinking, like we just discussed in a class. Competition is there between the students, so it's a healthy competition. That is what we're trying to generate, not a negative competition but healthy positive competition. And the team or individual engages in a competitive setting where they actually propose solutions or ideas related to the specific challenge or goal. So this again could be individual activity or it could also be a team activity where there are two teams or three teams competing for this particular challenge. And of course, the challenge is done within a given time frame to generate and present the ideas, because we want each team to have the same time in which they can come up with an idea, or the individual. So no one team or individual has an advantage over the other participants of the competition. So we have to keep the rules fair for everybody. So everybody has the same time frame to come up with the solution. So let us understand this with a small example. Now if there is a challenge that is given to say maybe teams or individuals that find creative ways to reduce the use of single-use plastic in consumer products. So let us understand this process with the help of a small example. So let us assume that there is a facilitator who has introduced a problem to different teams or individuals, however it may be, and the challenge here is to design solution to reduce the use of single-use plastic in common consumer products. So this could be in terms of packaging, or it could be in terms of utensils or any other area where the plastic is used and it is a one-time use. So now the idea session will start. So now participants will come together. So they have been given time to brainstorm, whether individual participants or teams. So they have a fixed time in which they will be brainstorming. So we can see that there can be several ideas that may come out of this. So maybe the first idea could be that come up with biodegradable plastic. So maybe the team will suggest that we come up with a seaweed packaging. So it will biodegradable and it will not cause any landfill or any other problem to the environment. The next team could come up with a solution that we will come up with, say, shampoo bottles that can be refilled again and again, so that the outer packaging is same but the internal we are changing, similar to what we have at homes, the hand wash. Generally we have the same bottle for the hand wash and we pour in the liquid once it is empty. And maybe the third team comes up with reusable containers and maybe a deposit return facility wherein they have to return it and their deposit will be returned back to them, just like we have maybe deposit scheme in a library. We are borrowing a book, we keep a deposit. Once we return the book as it was in the initial situation stage, then we get our money back. So now these are some of the ideas that have been generated. So after this stage, then there will be the stage of collaboration and refinement, where now these three broad ideas have come up with and the team will now sit and refine these ideas further, that which seems more feasible in terms of the application technology, because in the first one the seaweed will have to be procured, it will have to go through a certain procedure, after which it can be molded into a package, or even the deposit scheme, who will keep the money, who will be in charge of the money, who will account for the money and things like that. Will there be a treasurer? Will there be kiosks? Will this be done at the shop level? And then for the second idea, which was reusing, that for how long can one keep on reusing them? Or what about the label? Label should also not get wet or things like that. So there may be many other such, further challenges that may be there in these ideas that they have come up with. So they have to streamline these ideas. So next stage will be the selection of the top ideas. So out of all these ideas, looking at the feasibility and the durability and other such factors that may be relevant for this particular problem. So now the top ideas will be selected and the group or a panel will evaluate these ideas based on the feasibility, impact and innovation. And these three terms we have been seeing that since the past lecture, because innovation, feasibility and impact, these are three, we can say, must-haves that should be there in the product for it to be successful in the market. And then the top selected ideas are then further prototyped, because now we want to see that how would they function, which one would be better than the rest, so that we can finally zone in on one of the best ideas. And finally, we will have the follow-up wherein the prototype will be created and then this will be used by the evaluators and the feedback will be taken from the users who will be testing out these prototypes. And this will help us refine the final solution. So the next technique is mind map. So I have discussed mind map in one of my earlier lectures as well, where I had given the example of the healthy habits and how we are then creating, we are putting it in the middle and then we are creating the branches and then the sub branches. So we can see here in this example on the screen that how in the middle where we have written mind map, that is the main central core of what we want to achieve, and then how the different branches are branching out. In the dark green, we can see the main branches, and then we can see that those dark green boxes further have those light green boxes. So they are the smaller branches coming out of those big branches. So this is what visually the mind map looks like, wherein we can visually see the whole problem opened up in front of us, so that we can see all of the connected elements to the main problem that we have at hand. So this is a visual thinking tool because we can see it visually in front of us, and it also enhances the creativity of the designer by letting them explore ideas. So it also enhances the creativity by letting the designer explore the ideas in free form. So we can see that how even more branches can be created if we have a problem at hand. So this allows the designer to just come up with all the other related issues that may be there with the product. So now, how is it done? So these are some steps here on the screen which will help you all to understand the process of how the mind map is generated. So we can see that the main problem statement is written in the middle of the page or board wherever we are working on this. It could be a physical page or board, it could also be a digital if one likes. And then the solutions and ideas that come to mind are written on the same page, and they are connected through the graphics and words as well. And the entire thought process is managed to be documented in the form of a map. So the next process is analogy. So analogy, the meaning of the term analogy is a cognitive process of transferring information or meaning from a particular subject to another. So it is a comparison between two things and is a powerful tool for empathizing with the user and synthesize and define information and generate new ideas. So this analogy tool helps the designer team to seek inspiration for problem solving, reconfigure the design problem, and come up with unconventional solutions. So we can see a few examples here of the inventions or creating solutions through analogies. On the left, we can see that how the elephant, if you have met an elephant and if you've ever tried to feed him maybe a fruit and a banana, for example, so how it sucks the fruit with its trunk and then of course wraps it and brings it to its mouth. So it is a flexible trunk that is it has. So here on the left we can see that how this has been developed, which has a slightly similar way of capturing the fruit, where all these parts they open up and they close on the fruit, and then we can see it is very flexible as the trunk of the elephant as well. And this we see in a lot of these sci-fi movies where we have aliens and other things, and we see something similar, which of course we can see here has been inspired from the elephant's trunk. Then here on the other side of the screen we can see the submarine, and submarine is a device or a tool, a ship which remains under the surface of the water. So it provides many benefits like surveillance of the waters while not being visible, or during wars also we see that submarines are used by the enemy team, and it has many other practical applications as well. And we can see that how the inspiration has been taken from a whale. Whale again is the sea creature who also lives and has the ability to move underwater, and you can see that how the shape also has been inspired to quite some extent from the fish, from the whale itself. Of course, because here also cutting through the water and conserving the energy source that we have, it also becomes important. So like we have the ability to cut through air, the aeroplane, similarly here also cutting through the friction of the water also has to be taken care of. Now this is an example of the ergonomic chair and how the chairs are being constantly redesigned, because the human comfort is really imperative, whether it is somebody who works in office or a student or anybody who uses a chair for any work that they are doing. So we can see here that of course when the person is sitting, their body also should be allowed to lean when they want the support of the chair, especially when they are working for long hours. So here we can see that the shape of the chair is inspired or is designed around that of the human spine. So we can see the similarity in the chair and in the spine as well, because ultimately the spine has to align with the chair, and the chair also needs to keep the spine in its neutral position and not bend it in any awkward manner, because that might add some kind of stress to the spine. So this is an example from our everyday life. Other examples here we can see is that of an aeroplane, that how the form has been inspired from that of a bird. Just like the bird has a tail to navigate and the wings also to cut through that air, so the plane also has a similar structure here. And also often the CPU, the central processing unit of the computer, is compared with the human brain, because the function is quite similar. Just as the human brain carries out function, similarly CPU also is responsible for carrying out the function. No matter if we have a very nice looking screen and a lot of these wireless mouse and other things, but if there is no CPU, then the screen and the mouse is of no use for us. So similarly, we can see that how it is essential, just like the brain is for the human body to operate. Here we can see again very interesting example from the world of fauna, mosquitoes. And we can see that when mosquito bites us, so that time we don't feel anything, because unless we are looking at it bite us, but the discomfort that we feel is generally once it has exited, it has had its full, then only we actually feel the discomfort. So what it does while it is biting us is that it injects us with this tranquilizer like thing, which is a numbing agent. So this numbing agent ensures that we do not feel while it is drilling into our skin. So we can see that how this drilling motion has also been inspired from the mosquito. And then we have this again this small little insect, which is the firefly. So the firefly has the ability to glow in dark, and which is also known as jugnu in Hindi. And this firefly lights up as it is flying in the dark sky. So the rice lights that we have, these strings of lights that we like to decorate our home with, or we also put them in the bottle sometime. So they help in that little glimmer of light, which is not as strong as the bulb or the tube light, but it gives us that aesthetic, that feel of something very delicate which is lighting up maybe a dark room. So we can see that how nature has always been inspiring us, and we have been finding these analogies in our nature to create a lot of these solutions and products around us. So it is a very effective tool when it comes to generation of ideas. So with this, I will end today's lecture here, and I will see you all in the next class. Thank you.